Okay, so I'm just going to tie extended FG knot. We've been talking about 100% drivetrains and doubles coming in, bruising, hinging, that sort of thing, so that when if you're running extended fights, you want 100% drivetrain, and you need to mitigate that hinging, especially off heavy line where you're fishing very heavy to lighter braid. Braid's much finer than the mono. So we were talking about how we have 2 strands of braid going into 100% knot, which is then going into the knot on your leader. And what that does is it just builds a more robust knot and a more resilient knot to prolong fights. You know, even if you're fishing 4 kilo braid or something, and then you hook a 15 kilo yellowtail king or something like that, then you need to be able to put the brakes on. You want to be able to put the brakes on, and if your knot is only, if your line to leader knot is only sort of 50%, or 70%, then you can't put the brakes on like you would if you've got 100% knot. And you can really test yourself then, and that's the skill. Right, so I'll start tying the FG knot. So just pull that over there, pull this up to this, make sure you got it locked over in order with each other, right? Pull it over and just manage that knot all the way through, right? And once you get started, you can free flowing. When I'm not, I'm talking to chewing gum and looking through a mobile phone, so it's much smaller than what you can see, and it's a bit more difficult to tie when you're doing it remote. So you can see here I'm wrapping, manage, and I'm doing 10 up each side, and for the purpose of brevity, I'm not counting, just trying to get this video done, right? Okay, so what I've done is I've gone up there, I do one more, right, and then what you do is you bring the main line up to the tag end of the mono, and then you tie a half hitch in the braid over the top of the other one. Okay, right, and bring it down. Now this is the critical point in how I tie an FG knot. This is super critical, and that's the slobber and the pulling up of the knot so that it develops translucency, where you're creating the finger trap, and you need the finger trap to work before you even lock off, because that's the telling of the FG knot. So I put some slobber on, all right, and then I pull it up, and if you've got a couple of dowels, use a couple of dowels to do this, and get it tight and make it bite on the leader. And you can see how the finger trap is working before I start locking anything off. And that's the key to this, is that finger trap works before you even start. And then we'll tie 4 half hitches right down. Test your knots before you go out fishing. These guys that are fishing for tarpon and stuff, they're testing their knots and everything on the drag, setting the drag, and they're not. They're making sure they're going to be fishing full strength of the drivetrain that they've got set up on there before they even start hooking a fish. Not hooking a record tarpon or other fish for that matter before they even start. Okay. So what I've done is I've tied my 4 half hitches. I might just tie one more, and then okay, So what I'm doing is, you know, I'm going to test again. Get your dowel out, get your 2 dowels and pull like crazy. Alright. I'm going to cut my fingers if I do any. So you've done that, you know it's working before you start, and then this is where essentially we're creating a contemporary double out of the knot into the onto the main line, and that's because we end up with 2 strands going into the knot. And remember we were saying once you've got 2 strands of main line going into there, then you've got twice the strands going that are resilient to popping, and you know that does, see how it's hinging there? That does all the work. If you got blooming starfish jumping around or whatever and you're fishing light line, or that's where it's going to go. So this is why I'm going to tie, I don't know, probably half a dozen wrap chain knot, but you probably want to do a dozen, something like that, before you lock it off with 100% Jim Rizzuto knot to give you 100% drivetrain. So, okay. So you start your half hitches and you wrap them opposite for the chain knot. I'm talking and chewing gum here, so I may, and I'm doing it remotely, so I may not get them all opposite, but I'm trying to demonstrate the double into the knot, right? Right, so you got 2 strands going to the knot. This is the contemporary braid double, which, you know, is feasible because we're using braid. With mono, well, you probably could still do this, but you know, you'd probably use an Australian plate. So we're building that 100% drivetrain all the way through. So if your line's going to break, it's going to break on your main line, not at your knot. You know, you fish the maximum capacity of what you have set up. You know, so when you're fishing 4 kilo and you hook a 15 kilo yellowtail king, you know, you can put the brakes on. You can put the brakes on because you know it's going to be your main line. And you're already going to have your drag set up at 30%. So that, you know, drags, it's a whole other topic, quite long if you want to go into it. PGFC, probably best place to go and learn about that sort of thing. Game fishermen have everything marked on their drags, so they know where they are at all the time. So I've done a few. I've done a few there, and what I'll do now is I'll finish off with the Rizzuto, the Jim Rizzuto 100% knot. So come around a loop, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then what you have to do is critical with the Rizzuto is spin that knot around, otherwise it won't form properly as you're coming down, right? So get it around and get it started, right? And then pull it down slowly. Okay, so what you're doing is you're locking off with that 100% Jim Rizzuto knot at the end on the chain knot. So there we have it. So we've got 100% Jim Rizzuto knot going into a chain knot with the FG knot. So we've got 2 strands going from the main line into the FG knot. So this is, you know, we would, you know, but pre-braid, we wouldn't have even thought that this was coming, and this is great because we've got super fine knot. A lot of those knots you see on the internet, you got to double the leader over, and then it gets huge, and they're not 100% knots. This is 100% drivetrain knot, and there you go. So you can cast this, troll it, whatever, But with the chains, I'd probably do 12 to 20 up and then tie your 100% Jim Rizzuto knot back down so that you're 100% all the way through. 100%. Okay.